We are at the top of the new technological revolution in agriculture. This is it. Could you provide some context about this?
Yeah, I mean, as my fellow speakers also mentioned, agriculture and technology are very connected to human society and how we act. And basically, we are standing here right now and talking on microphones and having all these fancy technologies because, I don't know, 12,000 years ago, people started doing agriculture. They went from a hunter-gatherer, let's call it society, to a more stable society where they basically started building technology around them. So as a context, we're now, let's call it, on the cusp of the fourth agricultural revolution. We had 3 other agricultural revolutions before, and we can go into detail on how that changed society. But basically, the first one, like I've mentioned, was 12,000 years ago. Then we had the second one that came with the Industrial Revolution in the 18th century. So that brought machinery into the workforce. It also made economical and, I don't know, job-related changes. Like it usually happens, because there are patterns all the time when you're on the cusp of a different or a new technological revolution, you're looking for some patterns. And now people are saying that we're on the fourth because the same patterns that we've seen in the first one, the second and the third one are also happening around. So the third one happened in the 20th century because we as humanity were facing a crisis. We had a population increase and we didn't have the technological methods to get over that huge problem. So it came, I mean, it's debatable, it's called the Green Revolution, but it came with, in my opinion, with the method of producing fertilizers at an industrial scale, because back in the day, the whole chemical process of taking ammonia and other stuff and actually making it industrial-ready fertilizers was a huge problem, was highly inefficient. So Haber-Bosch method basically came on. It gave a way of actually using fertilizers at a large scale, and then we've basically built in the last century a stable society where we solved a lot of the issues that our grandfathers or our great-grandfathers had. So when it comes to the fourth one, basically we have now the information age where everything is connected. Most of the people are connected to the internet. It basically made a huge change into the fabric of our society. And now we're seeing some patterns, and we're trying to implement the technologies that we're using every day on our smartphone, also in the food production sector. So this would be kind of like a context on the issues.
Yes. So tell me, please, what benefits should society expect from the fourth agricultural revolution?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say. In hindsight, it would probably be like, yeah, it was obvious, but
maybe it solves the pollution and all these pesticides and stuff that they're using.
It's one of the issues that we didn't have back in the day, but now we're looking at it and we're like, yeah, we've solved the food production problem, but now we've created other problems, like everything comes with a plus and minus. So the fourth one, I mean, there are some 3 things that usually happens when agricultural revolution also happens. The first one and the most obvious is you have an increase in efficiency and productivity.
Yes.
So it's easier to grow food and you grow more. It also develops a process of scaling up that method, so you can scale up food production in other parts of the globe because of the technology, so you're not reliant on a single place. The second one would be usually societies get more stable and more resilient because you have more food, so it doesn't put groups of people into pressure situations where violence arises and so on.
Yeah, so maybe the hunger will end.
Yeah, I mean,
with this revolution.
Yeah, I mean that could be solved.
Yeah.
It's more like it's a very multifaceted solution. It has to do also with agriculture and technology because in Europe, we've had also there are some theories that we've been fortunate enough to have all this evolution because from a climatic perspective, we were in a zone where we can easily grow food. We didn't have extreme, let's call it, weather events and so on. You didn't have drought. The seasons were pretty stable.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't happen in other parts of the globe. But that's an interesting one. We might solve it. It could get better, but the only thing we can do is always we've solved problem through technological progress. We might do it also this way. And the third one that usually happens in an agricultural revolution is one related to the human society,
Mm-hmm.
because the obvious one is that a lot of jobs move from the agricultural sector, which in developing countries is basically the main employer,
Yeah.
and it moves into other service sectors. But that also brings the negative consequences where basically you have a depopulation problem. A lot of people are leaving the rural areas and are going towards the cities. The cities get more crowded, and then we yell at each other as we do in Bucharest and in other parts of large cities. So it's pretty hard to predict, but right now if you're looking at in the lens of the fourth agricultural revolution, we kind of have all of these three in overview in the next couple of years. We hope that the fourth one will bring more stability, because we still have major issues when it comes to food production, and even the war in Ukraine showed it. Supply chains are very sensible. That's why at the European Union we have some price restrictions and the way of actually keeping up, everybody involved in the food production process incentivized to actually do so. So even if you do like a small change on the local scene, that creates a chain reaction across the globe. So
that's why we're supposed to produce a certain amount of products.
We need it. There's always, people are not very aware of how little food supply we actually have, in the sense that the more developed nations, they actually keep like a few months of supply always in check, and then you have, parts like Egypt, where they usually take grains from us, from Romania, and from this side, where they live very on the edge when it comes to food production. So if food production is the main cause of unrest, then if you have even a small, a medium issue, a Suez type of issue or a Ukraine war, that sets some countries on fire in a sense of violence, because most of them are on the edge already. So we hope to solve it by technology. There are also some human problems involved. I don't think technology is 100% the answer, but it always helps.
Yes. So can AI assist in addressing these challenges? How would you measure the potential impact of AI in food production?
When it comes to challenges, we have a few, in the sense that, I've been building in the agtech sector, which is the technological agriculture sector, for the last, 8 years now. So we've been using AI back in 2017, since it was not a buzzword, so it was pretty hard to explain to people what actually does and why does it help. But what I can see from the challenges right now when it comes to technology is that a farm is a very complex system, in the sense that you use a lot of technologies. If you imagine your day-to-day in a small business, even in a medium business, you use a CRM, you use an ERP, you use, email and so on. So you can use 10 to 15 technologies. Well, in a farm, you actually need to use at least 25, 30 type of technologies, and it's usually handled by 2 people because they are not, most of the farms are not big operations, they're just like father and son. Statistically, that's just how it works.
Yeah.
So right now you have 20 technologies from different providers. Most of it is not on a framework like you do, like you have an app store and everything is kind of like, you understand it.
Yes, very easy to manage.
Yeah. So it's quite hard for them to actually work with technologies. That's why whenever you even if you get like a new technology that would help them and you actually come to them and you're like, yeah, this will help you, they're already overloaded. They're like, I can't deal with this stuff. So
they're not that open on the new technology.
I think they're open, but in the same sense they are. It's in their nature. It's like a selective process in the sense that usually people that work in agriculture, which is a very important sector, because they rely a lot on Mother Nature, and it's a very tough sector. Usually they are more conservative in their approach and also more, I don't know, they want to see the evidence. Which whenever you're building a new technology, usually what happens is until you have like a product that is ready to actually show the benefits, it needs to go through several years of iterations and testing, because even at the start, the PC and the internet, they were clunky, you couldn't do the same thing. But
we remember the noise.
Yeah, exactly.
Connecting to internet.
Yeah, you will call and just drop the phone, I need to use the internet. Yeah, but you need to actually go through the iteration process, so it's pretty hard for a technology developer to actually go to them and told them like, hey, you need to make an investment, which I know it's very hard for you. And you also need to wait like 4 or 5 years until it's at the level that you're accustomed to when it comes to your machinery or your tractor. So one of the things that I hope AI can address is this, that it can act like an interface, like an assistant, where they could combine all of these 20-25 technologies and providers, and just you as a farmer, you can actually just interact with the AI and just ask him questions like you would ask ChatGPT, and then he would just in real time analyze all the data, because we as humans, we are very easily information overloaded, so it's pretty hard for us. I mean, we have an innate, we like technology, we kind of have like a love and hate relationship with technology. We like the benefits of technology, but once it gets to a certain point, we just get anxious and, I'm not doing this today. So it's the same with farming. So this is one of the things that AI needs to solve. The second one is, there's a lot of noise in data points, because in agriculture you need to take decisions by minute. I mean, you just, let's say you have a plan for today and you go out in the field and then some weather event happens. So because of that, you need to adjust on the spot. So most of the farmers do it right now by instinct. They don't just get like tons of data and they're like, okay, now is the optimum. No, they just feel it this way and then they act on it, even if they haven't all that information, because there's a lot of noise. So an AI in agriculture should be able to filter out the noise and help somehow in decision.
Simplify the...
Yeah, but it's quite hard, because if you imagine you have information that comes every few seconds, you have like sensors all over the place, soil data on one point, I don't know, satellite data. It's all of this data that, and you also need to take into consideration there's like a generational gap, and most of the farmers are not my age or your age. They just started with the technology 30 years ago, and now they're getting overloaded with all these tablets and so on. So it's quite hard also on the generational part. So that would need to improve also on the decision making.
So maybe the sons will be the one who will apply it.
Yeah, I mean, right now, one of the things that you find out, because people believe that a revolution happens instantly, it's quite, I think, in agriculture, it's quite progressive. When it comes to like, you need like 20 or 30 years, maybe some Gen AI in agriculture could actually solve that gap and improve it. But right now, there's a skill set and a generational aspect that you need to actually take into consideration. Even if we have the technology ready, it needs to be handled by humans.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, that may take the sun to actually get it. And because the difference between other industries and agriculture, agriculture kind of remains like a family business, in the sense that, I mean, you have corporations also that have large farming operations, but 90-something% are still family-run farms, and they basically need for the sons to actually pick up the business and understand technology, which is also a problem because it's not. Agriculture is not a flashy industry. It's crucial. I think it's the base industry for our society, but people just get away from it. I mean, they want to do other cool stuff. Yeah, so we have a problem with that end also.
Yeah, but in Europe is the same, like in small families, they have the farming?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same. It also, the only thing that depends is like, in America, United States of America, you have like your usual Midwest farmers, also like a family farmer. They have acres because they don't use hectares, but you can imagine like 50 to 100 hectares. They just run it by themselves. If they have a bigger operation, they just hire people locally. In Romania, and also in this type of parts of Europe, Romania is more similar to Ukraine and the region, in the sense that we either have like very small farms, like, I don't know, under 50 hectares, 10 hectares, 15 hectares, that are not technologically evolved, or either you have large farms, like thousands of hectares that are quite run like a corporation, but not, because they're still family farms. They have lots of employees. So Ukraine and Romania runs this way. So there's not like a small business. A small business in France is way more similar to a small business in the UK and from Romania and, I don't know, China and US than it is a farm. Because a farm in France is very different from a farm from its neighbor. So you have all this inconsistency across that also the technology needs to actually solve it. So.
So thank you very much for your speech. It was very interesting. Do we have some questions from the audience? You concentrate on your phones. Not what were we talking about?
In one of the panels, it was said that in Moldova it was created an AI wine that in Düsseldorf even gained some awards. Do you believe in the AI wine as a future direction in the wine industry?
Yeah, I mean, also agriculture is a very general term in the sense that it has all these subsectors. You have vertical farms, which you can grow in your own apartment.
Yes, this is interesting.
Yeah,
I give you.
Yeah, you also have wineries. You also have large agricultural operations such as grains and wheat, which you have in Romania and also in Moldova. I mean, an AI wine is kind of like a buzzword right now because there's also lots of people involved. You can call it this way. I mean, the wine industry is more prone to AI in the sense that it runs on stricter terms. It's not so much chaos as in, I don't know, doing corn or something like that, because you have it on a limited field. You have all these sensors, and maybe the AI will tell you, like, at the right point of, I don't know, soil humidity, you should take that wine. So you can call it an AI wine. Maybe wine aficionados will get mad at that, but it's I mean, as long as you call something AI wine or AI corn, and that helps with, I don't know, the way society embraces more technology, and also the farmers embrace it more, I mean, I'm good with that. It's a long way until AI will actually do like from A to Z in a farm. And I think the technology is there right now. You can have like automated tractors and machinery, and there was also an experiment where they used technology, people to actually grow a field. But the more problem stands from a societal standpoint, that we have the technology ready, but what are you actually going to do with all the people that are now working in the agricultural field? Because they need to go through a new process of, maybe they've worked all their life and now they have like a machinery doing all their work and now they don't have a job. So I think it's the same with self-driving cars. Maybe the technology is there, but from a societal point of view and how they actually replace the jobs, and if that causes, I don't know, social unrest, that needs to be handled. I think because at the end of the day, with technology, incrementally we'll get there, but also the society always moves slower. That's kind of the things to actually solve.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your speech. It was really interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to invite you now to switch the domain and move to another very complex businesses as real estate and constructions is. To understand better what are the current trends, impacts and transformative solutions, we will connect with our next keynote speaker, Mr. DIRK PAELINCK. So do we have the connection? Perfect. Hello, Mr. PAELINCK, do you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Are you hearing me clearly?
Yes, everybody hears you and everybody sees you, and we give you a round of applause.
Okay.
So please, we hardly wait to hear your presentation.
Okay, do you see my screen?
Yes.
I'm so happy. Well, congratulations to the technical team. We're very happy to be here today speaking, and today I'm speaking to you from Brussels out, and I do this as my function as chairman of European Property Association. And to immediately start with it, maybe I can explain a bit to the public what is property, because not everyone is knowledgeable of this unless you come out of the real estate industry. When we talk about real estate technology, we talk about PropTech and ComTech, PropTech being property technology, ComTech being construction technology. And including, in fact, all the innovations on a technological, technical or business model level in the whole value chain of real estate. And it also includes all the asset classes. And what we have done is, in every country, there is now a professional real estate organization. Well, it's obviously PropTech Romania in Bucharest, and we have partners on the European level as European PropTech Association, which is what I represent. It's like the umbrella of all the national PropTech associations. So we work a lot with European Commission on the level of innovation, on the level of funding, and also legislation. And then we also work with a network of more than 300 of the largest European construction and real estate people and companies you see there on the left. One of the great things we do is organizing every year the Property Startup Europe Awards. We do that with the support and promotion of the European Commission and also the European Parliament, and with various entities of the Commission, where I will get back to in a moment. This is just to give you an idea. This is the top 50 of last year in the largest competition in property and ComTech in Europe. But when you look at this, it's just names. I would like to show you this. And this is what happens when I put all these names and I link them to what they are doing in the building. And when I say what they are doing, it means they bring technologies or business models that have and that create an added value for the building. And that added value is, for me, very important. I know that today the topic is emerging tech and AI, and it will be like something that comes back throughout my presentation. And I first wanted to just give you an idea of the impact of AI on real estate. On one side, it enables to solve complex optimization issues, or streamline your operations, improve the way that you are making decisions, or enhance the customer experience. I think that's a very important one in real estate, and to create more business. And on the right side, you will see that the nice things that it brings with is reducing costs, the possibility of doing analysis in a predictive way, in data gathering, also to invent new raw materials. For example, I will give you some examples of it later on. It helps in designing buildings. It also helps in the operations of a building, of course, in the maintenance and in the end, but that's still in a very initial phase. It helps. It increases the capacity building of the investment in the investment process. So just to give you an idea about what do we think, or what are some of these innovations that were like in the top 10 of top 20 of last year. We have Lego Labs who invented the first and are applying the first carbon negative superstructure, right? Replacing most of the concrete and steel in buildings. They were number one last year. We have a Lumovio that is in fact the analysis that is being done with this device. In about 2 minutes, you can scan the whole room where you are and capture data about the construction materials. Also enables you to build a portfolio on it. It enables you to do, of course, ESG reporting on it, and for example, calculate the costs of the renovation. Another one is Solitaire. Solitaire power is in fact capturing CO2 and storing it in a very specialized way. So they are turning buildings into carbon sinks. Right? Now we have another company, it's called Iberian Robotics. They print 3D reinforced recycled concrete, and by doing so, they use recycled material and 30 times less CO2. Why do I give these examples? Because in quite some of these solutions, a first shimmer of AI has been integrated. But you can count on these companies to integrate more and more AI into their offerings and their technological solutions. So what's happening with real estate? Real estate is under an enormous pressure because there's global trends like climate change, rising urban development, and aging of the population. And we have, of course, the technologies impacting real estate, and I'm sure that you are aware of these. We have AI, we have the BIM, we have also IoT, big data, and robotics. Robotics, I think, is a very important one. And all of that is like coming into the real estate market at a very fast pace. So on top of that, you have now the regulations of the Green Deal that have started coming out 5 years ago, but are now accelerating. And I'm talking about CSRD, SFDR, but ESS, which are the standards of reporting. I will come back to it too. Energy performance of buildings directive. So all of a sudden, everyone needs to start reporting on so many things in real estate that you need AI and you need advanced technologies to help you assess how you are doing compared to competitors, but also assess how you are doing against the laws and the new regulations of the Green Deal. So we had Gonzalo Sanchez, who was already in 2023, who said we are at the pivotal moment to decarbonize the building stock, and that's really where all the efforts are going. And ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing an exponential growth in new construction because the world will add 80 billion square meters by 2060, which is 2 times the existing stock, which is, for me, incredible. And when you then look at the greenhouse gas emission part of the sector, I mean the industry of real estate and construction, in total, it's about 37 to 38% responsible for greenhouse gas emissions. Now, what do we need to solve it? Well, one of the things that we need is technology. And here you have the technology need in terms of investment. It's $8 trillion US for the climate tech investments that we need. It's huge, and you see there on the left side that we need an absolute sharp increase from now until 2031. Are we going to make it? I will come back to that later. In Europe specifically, you need to know, and that's also, of course, it's in all the European countries, we have something called the renovation wave, which is legislation was embedded already 5 years ago, where the regulations impose a 60% reduction of greenhouse gas emissions by 2030, and that comes at a cost of 3 trillion. And that's just renovation. When you look at the cost of realizing new sustainable buildings, that is requiring 400 billion of investments per year until 2030. I must tell you that at the moment, for the new sustainable buildings, we are about at those 400 billion of investments per year. So we are really moving in the right direction. When it comes to sustainable buildings, you need to know that, and that's what the big problem is, it's with the renovation rate. 80% of the buildings in Europe in 2050, they already exist now. So we're talking about 220 million building units built before 2001. So what are right now already the consequences of green building versus, well, old building or a low green building? And you see it here, figures of the Joint Research Center of the European Commission. Overall, in Europe, we see a devaluation of low green performing buildings with an average of 20%, but we also see, and that's for the new buildings, a 25% premium for the top rated green properties. So that is really showing you that by sustainable, you are able also to make more profits. So what are the drivers of this whole technology wave in Europe? First of all, it's regulation and taxonomy. And that's really the case for Europe. It's less in other continents, but we have the toughest EU Green Deal on the toughest Green Deal on the planet. You know that. The second driver of all those real estate technologies is efficiency, user experience, and in the end, it's personal because it's the founders that want to do good for the planet, the investors too, more and more, and you and I in the end also. So where did this exceptional need for PropTech solutions come from? I use this slide already since 5 years, I think, but it explains it very well. When you look at the phones, what happened? At a certain point in time, people wanted to buy the iPhone for a much, much higher price than the Nokia. And why was that? Because it felt better, looked better, it was built for the end user, not for the phone maker. It added new functionalities and also a layer of additional on-demand services. And so it catered to the growing need to be connected. And the same thing is happening since a few years in real estate, which is sellers of house becomes providers a livable and lovable work-life environment. So when you build on that, you see that we have more than 3,000 startups in PropTech and construction tech in Europe. We have the richest ecosystem in the world. For once, we have the richest ecosystem in the world. And we can be proud of it. And that's also thanks to the Green Deal, of course. On the right hand, you see that about 25 billion invested since 2011. But more important is to look at the left side, where I put some categories or subcategories of those startups and scale-ups. And you see there in the color of orange, light orange, that half of them are early stage, right? So it's a good moment also, by the way, to invest in PropTech solutions. The bad thing, and we really should focus on that, only 9% of all the investment went into construction tech. And I just showed you that the biggest problem we have is construction. So it's really not okay that we are just giving 9% of the investments to construction technology. Let me put that in perspective. This is a very interesting slide. I put here the share of global greenhouse gas emissions of certain sectors. And let's start at the left side. Mobility is responsible for 16% of greenhouse gas emissions. And yet, the investments in technology for transportation is 61%. So there's much more money going into everything that is mobility and transport than in any other sector. It's over-invested. And then we go to the complete right side. And then you see the buildings, and this time it's 21% because it's just the buildings. I don't count the activities of transporting and producing the cement and so on, but just the buildings, 21%. How much is being invested in climate tech for PropTech and construction tech? 3%. So we are doing really, really bad there. It's like we don't care about technology in real estate. Or that governments don't care about technology in real estate, but it's not normal that we invest so little in the buildings and in real estate instead of transport sector. But the good thing is that we see investments as a percentage of the GDP, that's a really nice one, has doubled in Europe when you compare it to the average of 2015-2019. So we doubled. We were at 0.06%, and now we're at 1.12%, right? It's 23 billion versus our GDP in Europe of 15,800 billion. So that's a good thing. And now again, back to the bad thing. Who is investing in those technologies? Well, more than half of investors in those technologies are venture capitalists. And you see that on the right side, in 2021, it was good for 550 billion, but with the crisis going on in real estate and also from the investment side, all of a sudden in Q1 this year, it dropped to 30 billion. So if we end 2024 with 120 billion, we're going to be very happy. But that's still 1/4 with what it was in 2021. So my conclusion is we need far more public and private partnerships. And then I look, of course, at the Chamber of Commerce in Romania, Belgium, because that's where we need to get money. When you then look at where has been invested, you see that a lot of money have been invested in technologies for manage and operate. That's just how do you better manage the building, how do you better operate it, like facility management. A lot, there's a second one, in market and transact, so that's about how can you better put your product on the market and ease the transactions, but not enough in the design and build phase. So, and what we need, as I said before, we need much more construction technology, so we need to enhance with the capabilities of AI, we need to increase our potential in new technologies for design and build, and also for the last one being big on work. So, where have the investment been going in 2023? Well, that's of course an effect of the ESG, the European regulations. Decarbonization is number one. That's where investments are going. And the second one is in alternative energy, renewables, including batteries. And when you see this graph, in the corner up right, you see where the biggest investments are going right now. So it's robotics, AI, of course, predictive analytics, the drones, and of course the geospatial. So it's about 4 billion that was invested in US dollars worldwide in 2022 into AI-powered real estate tech solutions. That's a report from Johnson & Johnson. I don't need to explain to you that there's something like the EU taxonomy. What I want to explain to you, and I will get back to it at the end of my presentation, is that we're moving towards an impact-driven EU taxonomy. So you can be sure that it's going to change again in the next 2 years. And now, just to give you an idea on where do we stand with this taxonomy in Europe. Well, 60% of European companies have zero alignment with the EU taxonomy. This is an eye-opener, and I think it shows that a lot of companies at this moment still have not understood how important the taxonomy is, and they also did not understand that taxonomy was just the first thing. Then came, the CSRD, we had SFDR, and then we have the ASRS, which is the reporting standards of the Commission. So everything comes from the EU taxonomy, all the laws and difficult regulations. So this is really most urgent for most of the companies in Europe. And then, that's a bit specific for real estate, and I'm sure that AI will help there. 75% of the companies, they have not enough data to do the correct ESG reporting that is asked from them. I'm talking now the big companies, of course, I will tell you in a minute to who it applies. But that's also not really reassuring. That's why, at a Commission level, it was decided to put pressure, ESG pressure on the banks and other financial intermediaries, and then out of that came a lot of ideas and wonderful initiatives. Germany launched a 50 billion industrial decarbonization subsidy program. I think it's great, and more countries should be following that. And of course, they did it with the help of InvestEU from the European Commission. So we got a lot of new instruments and a lot of ways to fund technology for real estate, and that's mostly based on ESG and impact, and that's for property technology and construction technology. The first thing that you need to know that when you are asking the startups in real estate, what's your biggest problem? It's not international scaling or whatever, it's the laws and the regulations in every country. It means that if a startup in PropTech is a member of PropTech Romania and he wants to deploy his solution, let's say in Spain, well, there's laws in Spain that are not completely implemented according to European law, and so that PropTech Romania has a problem deploying in Spain. The second thing is, of course, the problem is scaling the processes. So, what do we have in Europe? Well, we got quite things. quite some things. When you look at how industrial Europe has been reorganizing itself for the last, 2 years, you see there that we have 14 ecosystems that are crucial for Europe. And by the way, real estate is in quite some of them. And it is then a bit sad to see that only 11% of the real estate technology companies are cooperating in industry research institutions. We need to absolutely get this higher. For example, in fintech, it's more than 50%. Right? And then we have something beautiful for real estate. It's called New European Bauhaus. Everyone should look up New European Bauhaus. What is New European Bauhaus? It is a separate department created 3 years ago, attached directly to our president, Ursula von der Leyen, and it translates the European Green Deal with all its legislations into something human, a human-centric experience. It's about sustainability, it's about together, inclusiveness, and beautiful, including aesthetics, for example. So it's now becoming, this department is now becoming a central pillar of the European Green Deal. And when you just look at the 10 strands of the Bauhaus, you see that 6 of them are in real estate. That is really the sign that everyone needs to pay attention to that one. On top of that, ladies and gentlemen, I think that Smaranda from Republic Romania and Cyprian, they have already some of their startups also that got funding from the Commission. There are so many funding programs around, and the biggest one being Horizon Europe. It's a 95 billion budget, with currently only 15.7% of real estate tech companies applying for the subsidies. In fintech, it's more than 70%. So a lot of work to do there. For those who are here today and are in real estate, I would invite you to look at what is called the transition pathway for construction. This is really developing together with some people of the Commission new commitments, new recommendations, new vision for the green and digital transition, specifically for construction. Another program where there is a huge focus on AI is the EIC. The EIC is European Innovation Council. It is 100% owned by the Commission, and it allocates about 1.6 billion annually into deep tech startups. So, and when I say deep tech, it means important role for AI, right? So they just don't give the money to any startup. It must have a really long period of development. Sometimes the EIC is funding projects that take like 5, 6, 7 years before they can go on the market. That's really an important one. For example, this one, it's Createra. They have a zero cement biofuel, and it's, of course, with the savings that you see there, 80% carbon savings, 90% less energy, and 600%, so 6 times better thermal insulation. Another one that I can really give to you, present to you, is Octave. It's a company that buys back hundreds, thousands of batteries of electric vehicles that are not performing anymore more than 80%, so they perform below 80%. And they put these batteries in a container, like with 100, 200 or 1,000 of these batteries, and then they put their technology in it, they put it in the basement of a building, they link it to the solar panels on the roof, and then you have a gigantic battery that functions for the whole building, and you can use it when electricity is very expensive, like during the day, or you can just say, we're going to power it all the time with this. I also am very proud, and Smaranda too, that we have developed a very successful program together with the European Space Agency. It's called Space for Green Construction. There are about 20 content and protect companies in it, and it's developed for the best projects who are invited to ESA to work with ESA, and who can then integrate in their technologies developed by the European Space Agency. I put some names on the right side, and this is really, let me give you an example. One of these startups is now a scale-up, and they are able to detect from a satellite in space. They focus on the building where you are all sitting right now, and it can give you a complete analysis of the materials technologies that have been used to construct the building that you are in right now. So that's just one example. And it is so successful that we have now just launched a second one, and a program with the ESA, and that is commercial applications of space-enabled robotics. When you look at construction, we can still gain a lot of productivity when using robotics, and the robotics that are enabled are being done or invented by the space agency. Well, that's where you make enormous gain, because if you can use those technologies for the space agency and apply them here on Earth, then we're going to massively scale that. And AI, again, will be very important there. We have also a very nice thing, because this is also for all the startups. We got 2 billion of the European Commission funding, and we are creating now what is called a sustainable living lab. We're going to build a whole office, a whole hotel. We're going to build kitchen, bathroom of a house, and all the properties in context of Europe will be invited there to present, demonstrate, and implement their new technologies. And they will be immediately tested by 600 consumers, so they get immediate feedback. We have also a prototyping garage for people who say, listen, I have a very great idea on paper, I'm an engineer, but I need to prototype a device. But we have a prototyping garage in that same facility. And in the end, where they will transfer to, once everything is tested, then go to in this building, that is the Living Tomorrow 2030 campus in Brussels, that is completely built now, and every floor is in a different team. So there's one floor for health, one floor for cities, one floor is a complete office floor, or a retail floor. So to increase the maturity of our startups. So let me go back a minute to this reporting thing. Right now, what is hitting real estate most is, first of all, SFDR and CSRD, Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. Recently also, ASRS, the Sustainability Reporting Standards, these are the ESG standards of the Commission. And then, of course, now, recently voted, the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive. When you look at ESG and greenwashing, there's really a huge problem still, and specifically in real estate there is a huge problem. Because I will show you in a minute an example of greenwashing, but the good thing is that a lot of greenwashing happening, but there are a lot of institutional investors who are stopping investing with an asset manager because there are shortcomings in their ESG investment strategy. So greenwashing is in fact, greenwashing is presenting a product or a service much more sustainable than it is. And I want you to remember this slide. Really, all of you should remember this slide. On the left you see one of the brochures, so many brochures that you can find of developers. And there's about, I don't know, 150 trees on that building. It's greenwashing. It's the purest greenwashing you can imagine, because you're going to use 66% more in CO2 because you need a heavier structure to support all the trees. And in fact, it comes down to cutting 250 trees just to put one tree on the roof. So, then in the middle of my slide, you see what people think a sustainable building is. So half of the people say, if a building has a fronted facade, then it's a sustainable building. Completely crazy. On the right side, you see what a sustainable building actually is, right? So, the next time you have a brochure of a developer with this in, you know that it's bullshit, you know that it's not sustainable at all. So, the Commission started many years ago thinking about how do we tackle greenwashing and how do we make people do more sustainable investments. So they started by the beginning, which is the investment side. And so was created the SFDR, the Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulation, with 3 types of investments do we make. And Article 6 investment was a not green investment. Article 8 is light green, so it means that you are doing something that is sustainable but not completely. And Article 9 is a dark green investment, and that is really where you say the sustainability is very clear, it's measured, it will be audited. And at this moment there are not so many funds of Article 9. So, but this is where we need to do. So then came and that has a really big impact on real estate, is the CSRD. And the CSRD impact is a way, I presented here a very simple way. A European company needs to file in 2 mandatory ways from now on, from 2025 on. There's financial reporting that you do every year, and then there is the sustainability reporting. And it applies in 3 phases. It applies first to companies with a certain revenue or with a certain number of employees. So a lot of companies in real estate are there because you need to also have, as from the moment that you have more than 20 million in total in assets, you are the one reporting there. So in total, 50,000 companies will need to report on ESG, and it starts in 2025. Now, in the end, what happened is that we had ESG standards for real estate all over the place, and everyone was applying different standards. So the Commission published in July 2023 the EU Sustainability Reporting Standards, and these are in fact the ESG standards for Europe. It means also that this has an effect outside of Europe. Why? If you are an American investor and you have a building in Bucharest, then you need to report on the building not according to the American reporting requirements on sustainability, but according to the ESG reporting imposed by the European Commission. And now it comes, 90% of all corporations worldwide will increase their spending on ESG reporting. And that's a very good thing. But let's move further, because there's also something like the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive, and that has again a big impact on the real estate side, because here you need to identify, prevent, mitigate, and account for negative environmental and human impacts. So this is really something that is, it's not going to be voted, it will be voted tomorrow, by the way, but it's going to be voted. There was a very large consensus about it. And then, to finalize this, you know that until last year, anyone could write a report about how sustainable your company is. I could have written a report for one of the corporates in real estate in Romania, ensuring that that they are really sustainable, that they responded to whatever frameworks were in place at that moment. So this is finished now. This is finished because the ESG rating providers are now regulated and they are now supervised by the European Securities and Markets Authority. So if you don't have an accreditation with the ESMA, then you are not an official ESG rating provider anymore. It's another way of the Commission to make sure that we do this. I want to leave you this year with 3 slides about we can expect, and this is for the audience of real estate of today. There's a complete revision of the construction products regulation that is coming up. You should really look into this. I will write about that in probably as from May of this year, because I'm in committees where we discuss this one. There's a new construction and demolition waste management protocol. It goes very far, and it's going to come out normally by the end of this year. And I'm telling you this because in the end, what we are going to, and that's the aim of the Commission, is the whole life cycle of greenhouse gas emissions of the building. It means that from the moment that an architect thinks about designing a building, they must take into account the materials that will be used and what he's going to do with these materials when the building will be deconstructed and recycled 40 years later. So it's a really complex issue, right? And that right now is a focus of the Commission. Voilà, that's where we're going. Beyond the life cycle, the building passport. We don't want to send anything anymore to the landfill. Enfin, for this moment, it's not doable, but this is the end goal of what we want to reach there. So, I'll leave you with some thoughts. You must all understand that ESG is not sustainability. I see a lot of articles about ESG investing. It's all over the place, ESG. ESG is just a screening, right? How a business is affected by environmental and social issues. Sustainability is something completely different. It's about how you are going to create value by managing your social and environmental impact. So to put it very simple, ESG is not sustainability and disclosure is not impact. It's not because you report on things that you have a real impact. What we need to move to, and that's a future strategy of the European Investment Fund and the European Investment Bank, is a way of impact investing. So, what is impact investing? Investing with the intentions to generate positive and measurable impact, social and environmental, and also, of course, financial return, with the stress on measure, right? So, if you are going to do, if you want to invest and be recognized as an impact investor, then you will need to comply with a lot of requirements. And the first thing is, and that's why I'm showing you just this slide, you need to, before you do the investment, you need to already have all the impact measurements elements inside. For example, you can say, thanks to my solutions, we are going to avoid 1 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions. This applies to some of the projects, for example, or of some of the construction materials. But you can also calculate it in how many people did we give access to affordable housing. So this is what you put in an impact investment plan. And then comes, of course, and that's the biggest one, when your company promises that they will take, for example, 500,000 tons of CO2 out of the atmosphere, then you must be, of course, measured upon it at the end of the year or the second year. How did you do? So, what we need to do now is align the incentives. So, the people managing the investment fund, their remuneration must be linked to the impact, the true impact that this investment has on the planet. And this is one of the reasons why only 3% of course of all funds are impact funds in the world. And you see here, latest slide of the InvestEU, impact funds are, after the banks, the next big thing on the radar of the Commission. Finally, my friends, I need to tell you something. I am now a mountaineer since many years, and for me, that is climbing in the mountains is for me the motivation, personal motivation to make change into all of this in what I do in my life. The question that I have for all of you here today is, what motivates you to be involved in sustainability, in getting a better planet that is in a real estate world that is beautiful, sustainable, and together. I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. PAELINCK, for your wonderful presentation. Do we have some questions from the audience? No, we don't have questions. So thank you very much for you being with us, even like this online. It was really pleasant seeing you. And thank you for all the information.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Okay, let me invite to the stage our next session moderator, Mr. Valeriu Moldovan.